Well, greetings, ADNC fam. Emma Ansah here for another live stream, and we're going to be talking about a very important topic. But before we get started, I just want to talk to you a little bit. First of all, I'm wearing Blue Jays blue because although the Blue Jays have lost 2 games, I'm saying it ain't over until it's over, okay? So I'm still representing for the Blue Jays and I'm still rooting for them. The other thing I wanted to also talk about is we need to pray for Jamaica. We need to pray for Jamaica. This massive Hurricane Melissa, is hitting Jamaica, and they're talking about 295 kilometer per hour winds and rain. And also, the reports are saying that we're looking at Jamaica being unrecognizable by the time this horrible storm passes through. The other thing is that the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, is saying that this is the biggest storm that's ever hit Jamaica. And also, he's saying Jamaica doesn't have the infrastructure to withstand this storm. So this is a huge deal. So we all need to pray for Jamaica, okay, and pray for our brothers and sisters out there. I have family and friends that live out there. I'm staying in contact with them. If you have family and friends, try to stay in contact with them. It's a really big deal. And also let us pray for Cuba, because apparently it's going to make its way to Cuba as well. So let us keep our brothers and sisters in prayer here. Peace, family, and for Jamaica. That's right. Thank you, Simo 27. We got to pray for them. We absolutely do. um, so we're going to talk about this very important topic today, which is Ontario missing Black youth. A while back, I had covered this story because I had identified that I was seeing more and more and more Black youth, and they were from the ages of like 12 all the way up to 16, 17 that were missing. And they used the word missing, right? And I thought, what's going on here? So I decided to cover this story right here on African Diaspora News Channel. You can go back and watch it. And after that happened, after I covered the story, it really blew up in Ontario and it became a really big deal here. A lot of content creators, journalists were covering it as well. TikTokers, everybody was concerned about this. And there were a lot of narratives that were floating around talking about organ harvesting and what have you. And there were a lot of very concerned citizens. And I want to just remind you of what happened once the story was broken by me, and then other content creators took it and ran with it. And then one of the local news outlets here in Toronto, City TV, covered it as well. So we'll take a look at that and then we'll talk about it further. And then I'm going to bring on Shana McCullough, who is the founder of Find Ontario Missing Boys. And she's been in these streets, killing it, just, really advocating for our missing youth. But let's just watch this first and then we'll move on.
Video.
Sorry, wrong one. We're going to go with this one first.
Several missing Black boys across the GTA, acting as a catalyst for change. Fear and confusion can be seen in the comment section of posts like this one.
Many young Black people are missing, and nobody's doing anything about it, people.
And this one.
This is a problem. What are the police doing? Where are these young boys? Why are they all missing?
Taking social media by storm, leaving the community with more questions than answers, petitioning for action. Over 500 people joined the online call, with another 400 sitting in the virtual waiting room.
And the voices of the community spoke loud, which compelled us to create an atmosphere and a platform to bring the community together.
Brampton's Black Empowerment Unit invited representatives from several police forces across the GTA, dignitaries, and community leaders to speak with concerned residents.
Well, gotta love live stream. So that's freezing. In any event, we're going to bring on Shana and we're going to have a conversation with Shana. And let's just get into this and talk about some of the things that people are just not knowing about what's going on. So without further ado, hello, Shana. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm so happy to
Hi,
have you on.
hi, Emma. Thanks for having me.
So, Shana, you are the founder of Find Ontario Missing Black Boys, and you have been in these streets. You have been advocating, you've been speaking to the parents of missing Black boys. So tell us, what have you discovered, and what are the things that we're just not hearing about when we're seeing what's going on in the news, or when we see all the reports that say missing, and we're seeing Black boys and girls, by the way, from ages of 12 up? What have you discovered with your findings?
Yeah, through my advocacy work and connecting with families of missing boys across Ontario, across the GTA, we've been locating these boys across zones that I now call the red zones. And these areas are cities like Aurelia, Niagara, London, Windsor, Sarnia, Sudbury, Barrie, all the way up to Thunder Bay, which is 15 hours away from the GTA. I coined the term red zones because that's where these boys are being located, whether it be with me, by me, found by me, or a family member, or found by authorities. So these are the red zones that I've been traveling to. I went to Thunder Bay and Sarnia so far. My next red zone will be Aurelia, and really going there on the ground, canvassing, giving out flyers, asking the community if they've seen any of our boys. Luckily, I was able to find one of our boys out in Thunder Bay. It took a few days. We were there for about 3 days, I believe, until he was located. And I did travel with an uncle. So this is a crisis that we're seeing that's human trafficking. And let's just call it what it is. I do not, shy away from that, or because it's really important that we call it what it is. This is a fact. When young boys are being lured, coerced, manipulated, and transported outside of their community, this is a labor trafficking. And that's what I've uncovered over the past year of advocating for our missing boys.
So when the police say that, sort of putting them under two specific categories, saying that these young Black boys are either being running away from a broken family, broken situation at home, toxic situation at home, or they're being lured to a situation. Do you find, like within your findings, that some of these young boys fall under that or those two categories, or are you seeing more than that happening?
Every situation is unique, and every family that I've supported, their situation is different. But the common thread does line where these boys, majority of them, are being lured, coerced by means of gifts. So if your child comes home with a new pair of Jordans or a new tracksuit that you didn't buy for them, or if your child shows up with a cell phone that you didn't purchase for them, or if someone is taking them out to McDonald's or things like that, you need to be on high alert, because these boys are targeted in their schools. I've identified several schools in the GTA where boys are being targeted. Principals need to be aware of this. Social workers need to be aware of this. If you notice that 15-year-old boys, 5 or 10 of them are just missing back to back to back from your school, that is a problem. And I really am disappointed in hearing from a mom recently who, there were signs that the principal was made aware of, yet, how he handled the situation was inappropriate. So I just really would like to go to schools next, possibly, to communicate to the principals and the teachers there that their schools are being targeted. And I have those names of those schools. And they need to know that in order to protect their students and in order to protect the families as well.
And what are some of the scenarios? Like is a young boy or girl approached, and how are they courted, and then they end up in these situations? You mentioned the schools, but are they targeting specific children? Do they have I guess a game plan, or I don't know, a GPS, like how they go about getting these kids and where?
Yeah, a perfect example is like a 10-year-old boy or a 9-year-old boy. These are real examples, by the way. A 9-year-old boy who is living at home. His father lives in Montreal, and he was told by a predator, a trafficker, that, if you come out with me to Montreal, we'll, search for your dad. So they befriend them, they convince them that they are going to help them either to with their finances or in search for a parent that they are yearning for. And then next thing over years, this boy is groomed, and we'll see a missing flyer up by the time he's 12, because he's 9. This is a process of grooming, coercing, manipulation, and it's sad. It really leaves a disgusting taste in my mouth that, as young as 9 years old is being targeted in this way.
And once they get them, and they move them over to wherever, somewhere in those red zones, what kind of work are they doing? What do they have them doing?
Yeah, so it ranges. It's anywhere from drug trafficking to car thefts to home invasions to um, murder. It's really sinister, and they know that they think that these kids will have lesser punishments. But what I'm finding now is that the courts are not as lenient on these boys. So what is really important is for them to know that when people tell you that you're going to get off with a slap of a wrist, or they tell you that you might have a better life elsewhere, it's just not the fact. It's not the case. And the real problem here is the school to prison pipeline. U of T, University of Toronto, has done a study on it that they released, and I read the report, and it is a serious issue. And I think that these boys are just dismissed, ignored, and they fall through the cracks of a systemic problem that we have here in Toronto and across Canada, quite frankly, because now with the case of Josiah Webb Long, he's been tracked to Pelican Narrows. I don't know the details of his case fully because, the RCMP has been keeping it close lips. So I only know from the mother's side and the family side of what they've experienced and what they've shared with me. But this is a proven case of cross-provincial trafficking, and that's what it seems to me. And or the red zones are apparent to me, and a 9-year-old boy being cursed to go to Montreal. This is something where I spoke to a mother in Montreal, and her son was brought here to the GTA. Excuse me, my voice is still a little here and there.
No, you're still working through that voice. Yes.
Yeah, I lost my voice on Friday, and it only came back today, so I apologize for the
No,
extra
not at all.
raspiness. But it's alarming to me. I spoke to another mom who her son was located in another province, and he was unfortunately located deceased, and that was back in 2020, 2021. So this is a serious crisis. When one boy is found, another boy takes his place. And we need the authorities to take these kids seriously. In Josiah Webb Long's case, they had denied his mother the right to file a missing persons report, and that is completely negligent on the Peel Regional Police's part. And I'm quite frankly dissatisfied with the way these cases are being handled.
Yeah, and just for our viewers, Josiah Weblong went missing at 15, and he actually resides in Brampton, Ontario, and he was tracked to Saskatchewan. Now, for our American viewers, Saskatchewan is a whole other province. So the fact that he is all the way out in Saskatchewan, last known, is problematic. And like you said, the way that it was handled, I'm also furious about. I'm also not happy about the way these young boys are being handled as they commit crime. I will preface by saying if they're committing crime, absolutely should be punished. However, there are adults in the room, And I keep saying it. And when I say that, I'm met with so much backlash saying that, well, they did what they did. They should be punished as adults. They should do the time. They should get the death sentence. And all of these things to me that are preposterous, because if I'm 12 years old, there's no way I know how to use a weapon at the age of 12 unless somebody that's older than me is teaching me. Not only that, I'm not even at the age where my brain is fully functioned or fully functional or developed, if you will. And I'm also not at the age of majority where I could even obtain a weapon if I wanted to. So for me, the fact that these young boys are committing these crimes, horrible, but we need to address the bigger issue here. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I have been very vocal about that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely I'm on the same page. I think that when it comes to youth, especially the ones that have been accused of serious crimes this year, I think that if they have done the crime, they will do the time. And these are alleged right now because these cases are obviously in the process of the court process. But I do feel also when we are locating boys with 45-year-old women that know they're missing, know their parents are looking for them, know there's a flyer out, and there's calls for the search for law enforcement to look for our children. These adults that have our children need to be held accountable. They should not be, out back free on the streets to take another person's child. It's outright disgusting that these adults are not being charged with human trafficking. You have someone's 13, 14, or 15-year-old boy in your home or in your presence or whatever it may be. It's not right. Okay, so just like you would treat a sex trafficker that has a girl and locked up in a motel 24/7, worked around the clock, just like our boys are worked 24/7 around the clock with no food, no contact to their parents, and held in deplorable conditions. These adults that have these boys in these deplorable conditions should be held accountable. And I'm not here to do anyone's job. I'm not a detective, and I'm definitely not a special crime investigator. But I think that this is a serious problem in the way these cases are handled. There needs to be victim services involved. There needs to be treatment, and this will prevent recidivism. And this will be able to take these claws that these adults have in our children's backs out of their backs for these kids to begin to heal and to get proper resources and programs in place across the GTA, because this is a crisis. And if we do not tackle it head first and straight on, then it will continue to happen, and we'll see the crisis continue. Right now we have 9 missing boys. That is unacceptable.
Beyond unacceptable. And do you know what's even more unacceptable? Why is it that the percentage of missing boys are Black? Like the higher percentage.
Because our community
Right?
is targeted, and they know that they don't give a shit. Sorry, excuse my French, about our community. And it's honestly heartbreaking to see that our community is disposable in the eyes of the people in charge of the city, and they think they know what's going on, and they think they have it all figured out. But when you're not considering missing children as missing, or if you're looking at them as criminals, or if you are waiting up to 10 months to a year to locate a boy, or until pressure is put on by our community Amber Alert, which I'm now doing across social media for each and every boy. It's heartbreaking to see. Josiah Weblong's family should have gotten proper response initially, and all of the boys deserve to be found. And if you look at Judge Epstein's recommendations and how they treated the LGBTQ plus community, in the case of the serial killer that was targeting their community, she put in these 150 recommendations. And how many of those recommendations are being upheld? I can tell you right now, not even a small percentage of that is being upheld. And that is a major problem. And every child deserves to be found.
Found, safe, and also made sure that they are cared for afterward, because the trauma, the PTSD that they would be going through. What are some of the conditions that you have actually found these young boys in? I know some of them end up in trap houses, but just for our viewers and even for me, like what are some of the conditions?
I can tell you what I saw in Thunder Bay. The indigenous community out there is suffering. The apartment buildings and the areas that we searched, the smell is, I can't even describe to you. Pee, feces, things like that on in the staircases. The smell alone, like it's undescribable. It's like nothing you've ever smelled before. These places where these boys are kept are need to be demolished, in my opinion. It's not anyone, nobody should be, not even animals should be living in these type of conditions, much less our kids.
Now, you mentioned that the people that have taken these young boys and these Black youth are not arrested. So at the end of the day, if I'm thinking of the scenario, they're found by the police, they're brought home. What about the people, the adults in the room, like I said, that are responsible for them being there? They're not being arrested. They're not being, excuse me, charged with anything.
No. Best case scenario is that we locate the boys ourselves, myself and a family member, and I prefer to travel with family because I'm not recognizable to children, and I think that they need the proper support. Um, but no, these adults are not being charged with anything other than what they find, whether it be whatever they find in their possession, like guns and drugs and things like that. And quite often, the boys are also charged with the same charges as the adults that have them in their presence. So it's disheartening because these boys are criminalized. Not if they're found by police, quite often they are arrested and spend months, if not years, incarcerated in a juvenile facility. And I've been told by the police that I did meet with, that if these boys are willing to share their stories, the trauma that they went through, and speak more on it, then the charges can be dropped. But the problem here is that their lives have been threatened, their families' lives have been threatened, they are fearful, and there's a mentality of you don't say anything about these sort of things, especially with boys. I think they need to be treated and handled with care because the traumas that they go through, boys are taught not to cry. Boys are taught to be strong. Boys are taught. There's this sick mentality in our community that this is normal. I see some comments in my comment section. Oh, they're just OT trapping. They'll be back with a bag. Like, are you okay? Are you mentally ill? Because for our community to be normalizing something like that, it just breaks my heart because I see the mothers that are crying, can't sleep at night. I see the fathers that are searching for their boys, uncles that have traveled with me to Thunder Bay. There's men involved in these families' lives and these boys' lives, and they care, as well as mothers. And I just feel like nobody is listening to these cries for help.
Yeah, and what's really troubling to me is, like you said, that to me, if you're trafficking or taking a teenager that's underage, that is a crime. So the idea that these people are not being charged is a real problem for me. And so that's why it never sat well with me when I would go to these town halls, and that's how I met you, right? It was at these town halls, and you get these statistics, and then we're all of these things are actually going on, and you're not cutting off the head of the snake, because how does this ever end if you are not actually addressing the actual people responsible for making this happen and for luring our Black youth the way that they are? So that's really problematic to me, extremely problematic to me, and that explains why we just keep seeing it happening over and over and over again. So my other question to you is, we're talking about the Black community, and I know I've said numerous times that I feel like we are all we have, and we as a community need to be there for our youth. You know, if you see something, say something. I know for me, when I put up a banner, I'll get comments from people saying to me, I think I saw that person, and they were walking with, I don't know, a tall man, and didn't really look in great condition. And I had a feeling something was wrong, but didn't say anything. So I keep saying, if you see something and it doesn't seem right, even if at the end it seems legit, isn't it worth it to trust your instinct and say, oh, this doesn't look good, seeing this young 12-year-old with this older, I don't know, white man, Uh, it's super important that we keep an eye out for our youth. Super important. I'm just going to go to some of the comments here. Simo27 says, a bunch of flowers, Shana McCullough, and prayers to you. Minx444, Melissa B1 says, thank you for this, very informative. What's up, Buckhorse? Nice to see you. Barbara Samuel says, I'm going to tell you all this one time. This goes back to the Bible and prophecy. They fear the rising of Black Messiah. This is bigger than you think. It's spiritual. And Buckhorse says the streets is real. I mean, it is real, and it's real with our Black youth.
They're swallowing them up and eating them alive.
Eating them alive. And do you know what also really bothers me is that I feel like if the numbers were tilted the other direction, and it was a high majority of white youth that were going missing and that were ending up in these trap houses, I feel like it would have been handled differently.
Yeah, I see some comments saying, we need a task force behind that, bringing these boys home, a task force dedicated to that. I understand that there's other investigations that might be happening that we're not aware of. I know quite often the police, they work for years on certain cases to bring down certain people. And I'm not here to fight any type of crime. I'm not a vigilante. I'm not a superhero as much as, I wish I could be, I'm advocating and I'm raising awareness that this has gone on far too long. Our community has suffered way too long, and we've been ignored. And if I can save one boy, and then I've done something. And it's disheartening when I see, we find a boy and then another one is gone, and then the numbers are climbing now back around the same time that we started advocating. Emma, when I saw your video last year, and my post went viral, 10 million people viewed my post, and then I launched Find Ontario Missing Boys, and it's been a emotional whirlwind since then. And
it really makes me get emotional as well, because I'm thinking about, again, back to our day, you and me, Shana, for example, being 12 and 13, and what were we doing at that age? We were in school, we had friends, we were playing, we were having sleepovers and slumber parties and what have you.
Yeah, there's dance lessons. These boys deserve to be in hockey or baseball or karate class. They don't deserve to be living, a life where this is their future. And then they're, I spoke to a mom recently, and she said, my son was 13 when he was targeted, and now he's in prison. It's the school to prison pipeline. This needs to end. Our boys are being targeted. There's no other race being targeted. Let's just call it what it is. It's systemic, and we need to uproot it. There needs to be people that are taking this seriously. And I've reached out to MPs. I've spoken to 2 mayors who were willing to sit down with me or take my call. But yeah, I've been largely ignored by the government and by the mayors. Some certain mayors I've contacted and just got silence. I've especially in the red zones, but I do want to say that I appreciate the 2 mayors that did sit down with me, and of course any of the authorities that have listened, the RCMP that took my call, because I let them know I'm on my way. I'm showing up at your doorstep.
Good.
So they're fully aware that I'm headed there and I'm looking for this boy. If you're not going to do it, I will.
Now, I appreciate that you're out here in these streets and you're going with family members, but what about your safety and the safety of these young boys' families? Because if we're not addressing or ensuring that law is brought down on these people that are taking these, our youth, then there's a safety issue as well that concerns me. So how do you keep yourself safe when you're out in these red zones?
Yeah, some of my family, especially my mom, is highly concerned for my safety. I honestly don't feel unsafe. I have a committee. A lot of people don't know this, but the Find Ontario Missing Boys initiative does have a committee. So I have 5 women and 1 man in this committee who we meet periodically to discuss strategy and to discuss how to move forward in protecting our youth. And I want to give a shout out to them. And I keep their identities secret because
For sure.
out of protection for them, as well as for myself. I don't really feel safe, but necessary or unsafe necessarily, but I do know it's a risk. Like I said, I'm not here to take down any criminal organizations. I'm not here to find the boss of anything or to take down these gangs. That's not my job. It's just the job.
That is not your job. That is the job of law enforcement.
My job is to raise awareness, protect other kids, and protect the families, and to support the families that have already gone through this crisis and are still going through it. Because even when their boys are found, the back end of that is still traumatic, what they have to go through. So there's a lot going on. And preventative side of it, I'm looking to launch programs across the GTA as well into 2026. I'm working on that now. And there will be a town hall coming up as well, end of November.
What are the conditions of these boys when they come back home and mentally and physically?
Yeah, not well. For example, the boy that was located in Thunder Bay, I traveled with his uncle, and he was not well. He didn't know how long he had been out there. He was starving, sleep deprived, and just overall traumatized.
Are they physically harmed? Do you know? Are they physically harmed? I know emotionally
Yes,
they emotionally manipulate them as well.
And there's been physical harm as well in the cases of the boys that were located, whether it be by people who have them or in the process of recovering them, they have been physically harmed. Yeah.
And for the most part, are they found by your organization and the police, or I know that there's been some cases where they just turn up home. So I'm just like, are they let go? Like, what are the sort of different scenarios in which they end up back?
Yeah, for example, with the post that I posted on our Instagram at Find Ontario Missing Boys, there's a father, I won't say his name, but he did travel with his wife. This happened before I even started advocating. He went out to Thunder Bay. He was out there for a week, and he just refused to leave until they let his son go. So he was giving out his flyer. He was putting his foot into doors, walking into apartment buildings, going up and down dirty, feces-infested staircases. He would not leave until his son was eventually, he was waiting. Something told him, go to the bus stop. He was staking out the bus stop. He saw a car pull up, and this adult was driving his son and let him go. So quite often when we put the pressure on, we put the missing flyers around their neighbor. They know, oh shit, okay, a family member has showed up for this kid. They're more interested in protecting their product than they are in having a kid that a parent has showed up at their doorstep. Quite literally, they know we're there because we're canvassing the area. We post flyers everywhere. We talk to all the community members. It's like they know we're there, and then these boys are released. Same situation when we went out to Thunder Bay. That's what happened. He was released.
I'm just so troubled by this. I'm just going to go to the comment for section. Charlene Jeter is asking if I repeat the message for those of us that didn't get the notification. Yeah, sometimes YouTube doesn't get, provide the notification even when you say notify me. So Charlene, what we're talking about here is the crisis of missing Black youth in Ontario. We have a rise in the amount of missing Black youth from ages 12, sometimes even younger, 10, all the way up to around 17, 18. And I'm on with Shana McCullough, who is the founder of Find Ontario Missing Boys. And she has been in the streets. She's been going to the red zones. She's looking for these missing youth. She's finding them in trap houses. They're being lured into, selling drugs and doing all of these terrible things, committing murders, what have you. So that's what we're talking about right now. It's a really serious issue, and we are very concerned about our youth because we don't feel like their lives are being treated with the priority that they should be treated with and we don't feel like their lives, or at least I will say, I don't feel like their lives matter. So that's what we're talking about here. Going back to the police, because I came across one of the posts that you had made on Instagram with the chief of police, Myron Demkew, which again, giving statistics, which is what they tend to do often, is give statistics, but there's not really any other information that follows up with it. And in your post, you had made a call to action. So I'm just going to play it and then you can sort of expand on that and clarify a bit further.
It was released back in September and I wanted to address it. I think that it's important that we address it.
This year in 2025, 13 youths have been accused so
far. Let's try this again. This is very important.
In relation to homicides in our city. That is not okay. That is not acceptable. As a society, we need to do better. All levels of government and all stakeholders to step up, lean in, and work collaboratively in a meaningful way to improve community safety and well-being.
I'd like to say that I've been asking government officials, MPs, mayors, authorities to take our youth seriously when they hear cries of help, when our kids are missing, and when there's a clear problem, a crisis of missing boys in our city. I think that taking those things seriously before crimes are committed might be a key goal here, or should be a key goal here for you, the stakeholders and the government officials. I think that it's important that we address issues in a preventative way rather than in a reactive way 1 year later after I started advocating for these boys. And if any of them are on that list of 13, it speaks volumes. It's time we get to the root of the problem. Comment below and let me know your thoughts.
Root cause. That is what it is. Root cause. We need to get to the root of the problem here. Because again, if you're only seeing majority of Black boys, then there's a problem. There's a bigger problem. And we need to get down to it. So when you go on and you say, 13, we need to lean in. And I'm asking all these people to step up and do what? What are we stepping up and doing? That's what I want to understand.
We're stepping up to criminalize these children. And you know what? I get it. Like they've been accused. Let's let them, let that play out in court. These are alleged crimes. And I think that it's important that he realizes that I've been calling for the stakeholders, government officials, and all the people that he mentions in that video for the past year to take our missing boys seriously. Now, they denied it. They took 4 months for them to even admit that it was human trafficking. And they've denied, data that I've requested. I have to follow a Freedom of Information Act. They've denied. and denied even parents to file missing persons reports on their children. How much more are you going to deny until there's a full-blown crisis as where we are now? And this started long before I started advocating, and it will continue long after if they don't make a change. And there needs to be a change. A systemic problem is happening here, and there's a lot. I'm so tired of hearing people in my comment section talking about it's the parents. It starts at home. It's the parents. Listen, some of these parents, some of these kids come from 2-parent households. Okay, sister works for the government, brother is in university. The parents, like, don't automatically assume that these parents are absentee parents. Okay, I'm tired of seeing that in my comment section as well. The parents are to blame. The parents should be charged as well. These are people preying on our community. You do realize that, right? There are people that are targeting these children, and we're blaming the parents, right? That's the problem. I just don't get it. Sometimes parents do work a lot. They might work 2-3 jobs. The economy is in crisis as well. The the unemployment is at all-time high. The programs are being defunded. They want to, fund things that won't help this crisis, and they're ignoring the children. So, when you see this happening, it's a product of the environment and a systemic failure. Don't call it the parents, and people don't want to hear me saying the government's to blame, but I'm not saying one entity is to blame. I'm saying there's a web of problems here that need to be looked at and need to be rerouted, and create some type of substantial change so that parents and families are not being destroyed.
And I agree with you, because if you think about it, there's been some parents, and I even remember one speaking at one of the town halls, and he mentioned that his son comes from a 2-parent household and lives a good life, was on his way to basketball practice and ended up in a trap house in Aurelia. So how do you explain that? It's not always the broken home and the single mom. That's just not the case. So that's just not acceptable. So exactly, like you said, you want them to step up. Step up how? At what point do we realize that this is a crisis? It's not just missing boys. So for me, just coming and saying, hey, we need to dispel this missing thing, it doesn't necessarily mean abducted. I get it now. I understand. But we still have a problem. So whether it's missing or not missing, not abducted, there's a problem here. And we cannot gaslight. We've got to confront the actual problem. I'm just going to go to the comments a bit more now. Buckhorse says it's the cartel doing this. Listen, maybe you can tell us when you find some of them, what are the adults like? What do they look like? Who are they? Do we know what they're like?
I mean, I have their name. Sometimes I get names and I search them up on Facebook. I know what they look like, in some cases. And yeah, they don't always look like our community. And sometimes they do. So I think that this is a well-oiled machine. I think that it's coming from different
highly sophisticated organization.
And from what I understand from parents, they have their own drivers, they have their own systems, they have their own lodgings, places that they move these boys around to. It's a very sophisticated organization, and I don't believe it's one organization. I believe it's multiple organizations, and our boys are the cockroaches at the bottom of these organizations, and they're disposable, quite frankly.
Yeah, I have no doubt, because when you think about all these red zones, it can't just be one, operation that's running this, right? There's definitely more than one. Buckhorse is saying, I don't understand. I mean, this is the US government. They can find anybody. Hell, they can put a man on the moon. Actually, Buckhorse, this is Canada. This is happening in Canada, brother. So it's not even in the United States. And it does, by the way, it does exist in the United States as well.
The UK as well, Emma. I've had people reach out and say, listen, we have the same thing going on over there. This is a crisis happening in the UK.
Africa too. certain countries in Africa, they're getting, trafficked, Libya and all kinds of places. And it's sex trafficking as well.
Yeah, and boys are not
Um,
exempt of that as well,
no,
right? We
they're
don't
not.
know what they've gone through until they express to us what they've gone through, and that's why I said victim services needs to be involved when these boys are recovered. If there's any hope for them to express the traumas that they've gone through, they need to be provided with the proper resources, and that is specifically what I'm calling on them to do. I'm calling on them to provide proper victim services when these boys are found with adults,
Yes,
so
yes,
that they
and
can express the traumas that they are experiencing. Don't just charge them with the same charges of the adults are being charged with. These people, these kids that are found with these kids, you need to look closer at them, and you need to treat the boys like they are victims of human trafficking, because that's what they are. And every case is unique, like I said, but I will not stop advocating for this. And as long as there's one boy missing, it's one too many.
one too many. And, for those who celebrate holidays, we're coming up to holidays now. And that's like the most painful, if not the most painful, one of the most painful times, is because you're now going into another year. Like, we're in October now, we're going into the end of the year. And they are still, missing Black boys and girls. And that's a problem. Um, Charlene is saying, thank you. Oh my God, will our young men and boys ever have any respect in this evil world and in this country? Uh, what the whole hell is wrong with the USA and Canada? Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. What is wrong? Soul Shader says, missing Black boys. Exactly. They are targeting the Black boys because the enemy knows nobody cares about them. Teresa Thompson says, kids are victims here. Exactly. Buckhorse says, okay, I got you. Yeah, it's Canada. We're talking about Ontario. And really Canada. Um,
Across Canada, as we can
across
see from the
Canada.
case of Josiah Weblong. How does a boy from Brampton get to Pelican Narrows, Saskatchewan? That is 8 hours north of Saskatoon. That is far, far, far,
And
far,
it's
far.
most people will go by plane. You can't, it's not even like it's a long drive if you were to drive from Ontario to Saskatchewan,
I'll
as I
be
was saying
flying. I'll
earlier.
be flying
It's a
there because
whole
it
other
would
province.
take like a day and a half to get there
At
if I drove.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm this teenager was leaving the house and he ends up in Saskatchewan. That's a problem. Teresa Thompson says, "Dear God, help us." Indeed. Life with Jolly says, "My son is out there as well, 15 years old." Oh my goodness. Jolly, I'm very, very sorry to hear this. Listen,
Reach out to
as
me.
at the end of, yeah, we're gonna give you Shana's contact information. Please reach out to her organization, Find Ontario Missing Boys. You can find them on Instagram. And also, what is your website? You may as well let's tell our viewers now.
Yeah, our website is under development currently. I'm working with someone who reached out, who volunteered to create the maps so that we can put the maps up where the boys are being taken from and where they're being located, as well as some other resources on there, and events that we'll be having will be on the website. Thank you to the GoFundMe donors, because a portion of that GoFundMe is going towards the development of the website, which will be launching by the end of the year. And you can also find me on a new Facebook page we created, which is Find Ontario Missing Boys on Facebook. And we'll be sharing a lot there, separate from what's on Instagram. And on Instagram, you'll be finding an X. You can find us. So on Instagram, it's Find Ontario Missing Boys. On Facebook, it's Find Ontario Missing Boys. And on X, it's FO Missing Boys, I believe, or FOMB, something like that. But if you search Find Ontario Missing Boys, you'll find us on X as well. So those platforms for now.
And she just said that she messaged you on IG, so
Okay.
she's in contact with you.
We're on Threads as well, Emma. We're also on Threads.
Oh, on Threads as well. There you go. So Charlene is saying the parents should be encouraged to have a serious discussion with their children about Black men and boys being taken on how to be safe out there, to watch around themselves when walking or riding. Yeah, I mean, I know back in my day, my parents would always say, don't talk to strangers, don't go in any cars with strangers. You know, it was that talking point before I left the house every single day from age 6, you know. We've got to keep instilling that, and there needs to be educational pieces for our youth in the schools, everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere.
I'm working on that now, Emma, and I just want to reiterate, like, this does not always look like the movies where a van pulls up and they push your child into a van and they run off. That's not how it's far more sinister than that. These boys are being groomed over a periods of years, okay? So that these people gain your child's trust, they become somewhat of a friend. Sometimes it's bullying that turns into friendship. So you really have to be on top of it. Also monitor Snapchat, things like that. Snapchat is the chosen form of communication with these people, with our boys. So you have to be very careful. It does not always look like a van pulling up and pushing your child into the van. It looks far different, and it's far more sinister, and it quite frankly, it takes a grooming period over years. Quite frankly, it can look like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been told that there's been you know, people who will pull up in a vehicle and it'll be a nice looking married couple, and they'll be like, "Oh, hi, you know, let me come take you shopping," and things like that. And then there'll be a couple of young Black boys in the back seat, so it would all appear like this is a safe space for me. So then, of course, they hop in, right? My nephews were playing basketball in a park in Brampton, and a man approached them and said that he wanted to buy them tennis shoes, and he's starting a new basketball camp, and he wanted to invite them to church. So he asked them, you know, where they lived, and you know, and I immediately, when I found that out, my back went up, because to me, there's no reason why any grown man needs to be in a park watching youth play basketball to approach them. There's a process, right? So to me, that did not smell right. And that is an example of how they do it. They'll win your trust and then bring church into it, talking about, I want you to come to church, and all of those things to create that safe, you know, that safety net. And fortunately, my nephews who were 14 and 16 or 13 and 16 knew better, but there are a lot that don't. So it is, like you said, it's much more sinister, much more sophisticated in the way that they approach these youth. They use emotional manipulation, all kinds of things to really win their trust. And then once they do that, they continue with the emotional manipulation, but in a negative way. Like, your parents don't want you. They don't want you. They want you back, and things like that.
Don't have time for you. Your parents won't even notice you're gone. Oh, you know, your mom didn't help with your math homework. Don't worry about her. She's too busy for you. She's focused on her other kids. All kinds of things to put it in their head that their parents won't care or notice that they're gone. And it's quite frankly, it's disturbing. It's really, really, really sad. And sometimes they also use slightly older youth. So you're looking at like the 17, 18, 19-year-old boys that went to the same school, have since left, graduated. So they will quite sometimes use slightly older youth to pull in these younger 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13-year-old boys. So you really have to be aware that that is also happening. Yeah.
It just makes me so sick to my stomach. Teresa Thompson said, "This is everybody's problem. We are a community. Children should not suffer." I agree. That's why I always say we have to also keep our heads on swivel and keep watch of our youth. I remember back in my day, you know, when we were playing outside, as soon as the street light came on, that meant it was time to come in. And if you didn't go in, the neighbor auntie across the street would be like, "Get your behinds home," you know. So there was a community. It took a village, you know. Back home in Ghana, the same thing. Like, you would get a whooping from auntie next door if you were acting out of pocket or you weren't, home and what have you. And we need to get back to that same sort of community and that kind of unity. And I'm not suggesting that I'm putting all the responsibility on the Black community. I'm just saying everybody collectively, if we all banded together and made sure that we protected our youth, that would be, more than half the battle won. If we see something, we say something. All of those preventative measures. Now, going back to the crime end of things, like with the young ones now that have been committing murders and stabbings here in Ontario, what are your thoughts? Like for me personally, it really troubles me when I see that a 12-year-old has hold of a weapon and is able to even use it on adults. And what are your thoughts about the fact that they want to try them as adults and have them in jail for like 25 years
I
and what have you?
absolutely do not agree with that.
I think it's preposterous as well.
And you cannot try 12 and 13-year-olds as adults. I think that the funding, for example, I believe Sarnia got $100,000 or $200,000 in 2023 to combat human trafficking. And I think that the funding that each of the red zones is getting should be used to locate our children. And the crimes that are being committed allegedly right now, you will see an automatic decrease in that because you're bringing people's children home, and these people don't have control over these children for extended periods of time in order to get them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. If we actually put our resources behind preventative measures, and also put our resources where the resources that we're giving to these cities, border cities, to fight human trafficking, I want to see those resources being used to locate our children. I want to know how much of that money is actually going towards bringing our boys home.
I would like to know too, where is all this funding going? And also, after you bring the children home, make sure there are some resources and therapy and all of those things to make them whole again, because they come home broken. So, that's where the funding needs to be going to. Those two elements, in my opinion. Lifted Titan says, divine judgment is here for all harm done to the Most High children. And Buckhorse says that where I live, we do have Amber Alert. And yeah, that's the other thing.
They don't qualify for Amber Alerts. These boys.
Yeah. And do you know what else is preposterous? There's a process when somebody goes missing. They say, oh, they have to be missing for a period of time. And then we begin to search for them. So the fact that you're saying that they're not even allowing,
they're not looking, Emma.
Insane. Insane, unacceptable, outrageous. And that's why I say I feel like it would be different if it was another race of people. That's just my humble opinion. I feel like it would be different.
And you know what, I do want to say shout out to the officers that are looking, because they're not all of them. Like I said, I went to Thunder Bay. We wouldn't have been able to locate the boy out there without the human trafficking and missing persons unit, which was 3 people. I mean, it's Thunder Bay, but at the same time, we wouldn't have been able to successfully bring him home. So I do want to shout out the officers and in these communities that are looking and that are helping. I don't want to make it seem like nobody at all is trying, but something else, there needs to be more communication across board between jurisdictions, and there needs to be an organized effort to bring our kids home in a timely manner. Don't wait 10 months to a year to bring a child home.
Yes, and I echo what you said. Let us be clear, we're not saying the entire police force doesn't give a rat's behind. They definitely are there. In every profession, you have the thorough, you have the ones that are more vigilant, and then you have those that aren't. It happens everywhere. So we're not saying everybody. There definitely, and I do believe there is even a missing persons unit. So we're not suggesting, but we cannot ignore the fact that we have a very big problem with the level and the amount of missing Black youth.
Urgency
it
is
is
not
it
there.
Is urgent. Buckhorse says, dang, Canada is giving out time like that. Oh wow. Yeah, yes. Yes, and to our American brothers and sisters, there is this going narrative that Canada is very peaceful, and there's no real crime, and there's no real racism, and there's everybody kind of just skips down a garden path and just loves everybody. And I'm not suggesting the entire country is evil. I'm just saying that that's just not the reality of this country at all. Right. And for those that watch my reports, you'll see that it's evidence of such. So, any final words, Shana, that you would like to say to our viewers and to everything, government, law enforcement, the families that are missing, their youth and everything, just in general.
Yeah, if your child is missing, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If your child was missing and murdered, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if you just feel like your voice is not heard, I'll be your voice, and I will definitely stand up with you and for you. And don't feel like you're alone, because you're not alone. There's many other families that are going through this, and I support as many as are willing to reach out to me and share their stories.
Yeah, thank you, Shana. Buckhorse says, thank you, Miss Shana. Um, Arc Leak says, hopes tell it like it is. 100 police may be, only two are good. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Yeah, exactly. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking about, like I said, the things that nobody's talking about. Um, there's a lot going on, and our youth are our future, and it's super important that we protect them. It's super important that they are given a life, a long life, that doesn't involve law enforcement, and live a normal life that somebody 12-year-old, 13 years old, 14, 15, 16 should be living, and not behind bars for 25 years, and not tried as adults. We need to help them. They're not developmentally fully there. So that is why they're children, and they need that guidance and that love and that care that they're not getting. And
Yes.
it's super important. And also to the parents who, I know there are some that said they don't trust law enforcement. And I mean, they have their reasons.
Yeah.
So again, it's about creating that safe space. So find missing Ontario boys. There's an organization. You can also reach out to me and tell me your story. I'm here to listen. I'm here to use our platform to put that out there as well. There are people who care, and we are here to help. So that is my final word as well. So again, Shana, I want to thank you. I know you're out here. I know how hard it is. I know you get a lot of backlash. I do as well. But for me, it fuels me to keep going. I know it fuels you. I also want you to be safe out there, as well, as the parents that you're moving with. And I'm here. Always reach out to me as well for updates and or anything else. And if you want to come back on and share, we're here for you.
Thank you so much, Emma. I want to thank you, and of course the African Diaspora Channel, your platform, and just for being a continual ally throughout this past year. And thank you to all the allies that I've community organizations, the MCSC, oh my gosh, there's so many that I want to thank, that I've spoken to, Direct Your Life, with the referral forms for our boys. And yeah, it's been overwhelming. Rescue Youth Foundation, just so many organizations that have had taken the time to sit with me, and we've zoomed and strategized. And thank you to all of the Find Ontario Missing Boys community, because without you, we really don't have a voice. We are our voice, and we are our own Amber Alert.
Indeed. And I just want to finally say, I know you have a GoFundMe, so just tell everybody where they can find the GoFundMe to donate. And this GoFundMe, tell us what it's about.
Yeah, the GoFundMe, I think it's raised about $1,800 now, and that GoFundMe is specifically used to print flyers, to travel to red zones, to do the outreach, to support families as well. if they need support. And, I've offered private investigators and things like that. And more specifically now, it's to fund my trip to Saskatchewan to look for Josiah Webb Long. I was supposed to leave already, but I'm delayed because I'm waiting for a family member to be available. So it has been delayed a week. Yeah, so if you feel called to support this cause, to support our efforts in searching for our missing children, then you can, every dollar counts, right? So I appreciate everyone that has already donated as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's an amazing cause.
You can find it on Instagram as well. On our Instagram page is the only link. It's in the bio.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. So yes, Find Ontario Missing Boys. That's the name of the Instagram. And as Shana said, the link to the GoFundMe is in the bio, I guess the bio section of Instagram then. CMO27 says, we thank you for caring about our youth. They are needed and loved. Teresa says, for sure, you both have heart. I mean, we care. We care about our youth. And, whether you're a parent or not, you can't have a heart or have concern about this situation. It's really, really a crisis. It's a crisis. Charlene says, thank you both, Sister Shana. Be safe in the power of the Most High Yahweh. May He have mercy on our children. And I'm going to end it there. Thank you so, so much, Shana. Thank you. Thank you to our family, ADNC family. Don't forget to download the African Diaspora News Channel app. Again, we are praying for Jamaica. We're praying for Cuba. We hope our brothers and sisters out there will stay safe. And we will definitely keep our eye on what's going on there as well. So thank you, Shana.
Thank you, Emma. Have a great night.
See everybody. Peace be.